Risen Lord, be known to us. Be our companion in the way, and be known to us in the breaking of the bread. Amen. It seems as if people are walking a lot more these days. Some folks are just doing their normal routine of walking to the bus to get to the work they do, which is essential. Many people are out walking as if to escape confinement, get a little fresh air and some sunshine, and enjoy the beauty of the world. People are walking with strollers and with small children. Couples are walking together. Friends are walking, and you see people speaking even across the street to folks that they may or may not know, just for the companionship of being out and about and saying hello to someone and seeing how they are. And it's likely that many of those conversations have to do with the current state of the world and the coronavirus. I talked to someone this week who said no matter how hard she and her friends try, even when they decide to read a book or watch a movie so they'll have something else to talk about, the conversation still circles back around. People are walking and talking in this unusual time. And meals and food are another thing that seem to be a concern and a preoccupation and an adventure during this time. Some are waiting in long lines for food from a food pantry, or trying to figure out how long a jar of peanut butter can last to feed hungry children. Calvary folks are rallying to bring food and paper products and needed things for the EECM food pantry. And so that cart continues to fill and be emptied as it's taken to those in need. Some folks are exploring the deep, dark recesses of their pantry to find out what they have there that might actually be able to turn into a meal. Some are trying new recipes or perfecting their bread baking skills. The opportunity to find and to have and to share food is important, even if it's only trying to figure out who's delivering or where you can get takeout at the end of a hectic day of homeschooling children while working. Meals are a center of this time as well. The gospel story for today is the story of a walk and a meal. Two of Jesus' disciples are on their way out of Jerusalem, walking away from what seems to them to have been disaster, walking and talking along the way. They are grieving, they are perplexed, they are uncertain about what comes next. The crucifixion seemed to have been an end to all of the things they had dreamed of and hoped for. And yet now there is this curious story coming from the women that the tomb is empty. What are they to make of that? Everything they imagined and expected has not happened the way they thought it would, and they are walking away thinking and processing and trying to understand and to make sense of it. And in the midst of that conversation, the most poignant words, "we had hoped," which echo for us as well. Alongside them comes, yet unrecognized, Jesus, who listens to their lament, to their story of how things have happened, to their grief, their perplexity, their confusion, and then gradually begins to weave for them gently the story of God's salvation and God's abiding love into the story that they are telling him. They stop to have a meal, and the disciples insist that Jesus come and stay with them to avoid the danger of going on any further in the night. There at the table, Jesus takes and blesses and breaks and gives the bread. And in that moment, they are able to recognize the one who has been their companion on their journey. Jesus, who was known for being a drunkard and a glutton. Jesus, who ate with the tax collectors and the sinners, as well as with the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Jesus, who, confronted with a crowd of 5,000 hungry people, took and blessed and broke and gave bread and fish so that 5,000 might be fed. Jesus, who shared a meal with his friends before he was crucified. This Jesus becomes recognizable to them in the midst of that meal. Jesus, the one who was so often simply sitting at table and sharing life with those around him. Jesus is our companion on a journey, on a walk, on a path which none of us has known before. Jesus walks with us as we are grieving and feeling lost and confused and perplexed and uncertain. Jesus hears in our world those who say, we had hoped. We had hoped to see the new baby when she was born. We had hoped to be with our dad when he died. We had hoped to have a memorial service. We had hoped to celebrate a graduation. We had hoped that by now this would all be past. Jesus hears that deep longing within us and weaves it gently into the story of God's love for us. Jesus is our companion as we share food with one another, as we seek ways to feed and care for those who continue to be in need. Jesus is with us when we gather by virtual Zoom meetings to share a glass of wine or a meal. Jesus is with us as we bring things for the feeding of others. Jesus, who came into the world to touch the needs and the hungers of the world, stays present with us in this time and is known to us as we share in broken bread. This is the time to allow Jesus to be our companion as we walk through these days, to allow Jesus to be with us as we begin to see glimmers of hope and still are not quite sure what to make of them or what life will be like when we are through the worst of this time. Jesus, be with us to share as we break bread and recognize the one who gives himself for us, for the life of the world, and for the sake of God's love. Amen.